The very first one is from Parth. If we go one level deeper, just like eyes and brain enabling them, similarly, even the brain is an instrument for the eye to manifest that. Yeah, I was mentioning about it, the beingness pervading through everything. So my point being, everything is actually an instrument except that which tells you you are, is it not? Yeah, that's what it is. So progressively, the physical instruments or the sense organs are one level. Then the next level is the brain. Then the brain is an instrument of, they call it as the mind. Then if you go by the traditional way of thinking, we have the manas, buddhi, ahankara and chitta. And then beyond that and all that, we need not go into it. But it's a fact that progressively, as I said, as Adi Shankara says, asti kaschit. There is something which is Swayam Nityam, which is Swayam and Nitya.
Just
Yeah.
an extension to this. So when you say shifting the center, right?
Yeah.
What I am saying is, okay, there is this beingness which.
Who is this, please?
This is Parth.
Okay, Parth, tell me.
So there is this beingness which is you and the negation of all the other things that you are not.
Yeah.
But the negation that we are saying, let's say the body-mind complex, it's also a manifestation of the same being, which is permitting and manifesting itself.
But that's what I am saying. It is not the whole. It is not it's not fully manifesting itself. See, when I said shifting also, I made a mention that you have to see that this I with which I am familiar does not dominate me and does not interfere in this whole process of my understanding the true nature of myself.
Sir, again, now here there is another division that you are mentioning. I should not allow this manifestation to limit, the understanding of who I am. What
yes.
I am trying, yeah, but again, there is a division here. What I am trying to say is, even this limited manifestation, it is a limitation that has to be acknowledged instead of saying that I will not allow this to be,
No. What you say is perfectly correct. What I am saying is the very fact you have to understand the eye. I said you have to understand that the eye is partial, limited, and fragmented. That has to be acknowledged first. Otherwise, you will not proceed further at all.
But still, the limitation of body mind still will be there, right?
Yeah. See, obviously, as long as you have a body, that limitation will continue to be there. But what is functioning through that instrument is different now.
Right.
Essentially liberation is more from the self than of the self. I am not being liberated. The I realizes its limitation and goes beyond that limitation. So what is it is more a case of, as I said, not a liberation of the self, but liberation from the self, from this limited aspect of it. So I realize that what flows through me and what flows through the entire universe, what is pervading the entire universe are not two different things. That is the idea.
Thanks.
Okay. The consciousness also gets diluted with embodiment. So is there actually an evolution of the consciousness to its pure level, or is See, in the case of the bodies, Binaji, we call it as evolution. In the case of consciousness, it is unfoldment. You have to understand the difference between these two. Evolution is having a better and better and better instrument. But consciousness, by being embodied, is bound to be limited within the confinements of that embodiment. So what is required is the unfoldment of consciousness. The consciousness by itself is pure and there, all pervasive. It is one. Therefore, the term consciousness does not have a plural. We don't use the term consciousnesses. Most of these abstract nouns don't have a plural. When we say goodness, it is goodness. There is nothing like goodnesses. Similarly, there's nothing like consciousnesses. There's only one consciousness.
Yeah.
So it is more a case of unfoldment of consciousness.
Right, right. So the consciousness is always pure.
Is pure, and progressively as the instrument becomes finer and finer,
Right.
it is able to express itself more and more. And finally, when you transcend the instruments, you know that it is that totality.
Okay.
Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. It is infinite. You know that it is infinite.
Thank you.
Shifting the center, so it is dynamic, finding out that something out there. Is it the evolution? See, progressively, we are trying to understand the nature of the self. Is it the same thing? Is it limited to this? Or is it something beyond this? So you see, this I also is very dynamic. It's a continuously, changing, continuously in modification. The shifting is unfortunately an English term which we are using it. It's more a case of transcending, going beyond. It's more a case of transcending this limited center. That can happen only when the I is not allowed to dominate the whole process of our being and not allow it to interfere in all the activities. It should know when to keep quiet. So it's not a case of evolution per se. As I said, it's a case of unfoldment. If this mind with which we are familiar is silent, understanding and acknowledging its own limitation, then there is that possibility of something else unfolding. That's the idea of it.
But sir, so that cannot be found out.
No.
Keep on going.
No. See, the scriptures are also very clear. The scripture says the whole process is to get over your ignorance. See, all the effort is to get over ajnana. Because what is there actually is not a product of something. It is not the result of something. It is already there. You are not bringing it into existence, and it is not something out there to grasp. You remove this covering, see, analogies are dangerous sometimes, but there are some good analogies. See, you are sitting in a closed room. That does not mean that the sun is not there. The sun is there. The only thing you need to do is to break these walls, open these doors and windows. That's all we can do. That is what is required also. Beyond that, nothing is required. You can't hold on, you can't find out, you can't grasp it, you can't reach it, because it is not something out there and different from what is inside. That is why the wholly other is intimately myself. What is called as the wholly other is intimately myself. They are not two different things. You come to that realization. Please elaborate the stage of aesthetic pleasure. See, Agarwalji, the point is this simply: the senses and the body by nature are provided with an opportunity to experience pleasure. It is pleasure. Pleasure in any form, from the grossest to the most refined pleasure, is there. And the instrument, that means the physical body, the mind, your thoughts and feelings, and all this set, this is meant for experiencing. this experiencing, it is meant to experience pleasure also. It is meant to experience pain also. The point to be understood is the nature of the instrument and nature of pleasure. That becomes more important. The nature of the instrument and the mind is always for more and more and more of the pleasure and continuously avoiding pain in any form. But unfortunately, we know from our own experience that pleasure and pain always go together. I possess something and I derive pleasure. But I also carry along with me the fear that the moment this possession is lost, I am in pain. I am in pain. So the fear of loss, the fear of ending, the fear of not continuing this pleasure, or your inability to hold on to it permanently, is what causes the problem. Pleasure per se has no issue. Whether it is aesthetic or very gross or very fine, very refined pleasure, there is no problem at all. The problem is with the mind which wants more and more of it, at the same time knowing that it can't really have it that way. It can't really have it that way. The more you think about it, the more you get into get more and more deeply involved in it. There's a beautiful sequence in the Bhagavad Gita. Dhyayato vishayan pumsah sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho vijayate krodhat bhavati sammohah sammohat smriti bhramshat buddhinasha buddhinashat pranashyat. See, beautiful sequence has been given. I think there cannot be a better way of expressing the whole human psychology. As you go on thinking about various objects of pleasure, Jayato Vishayan, we get attached to it. Attachment leads to desire. Desire leads to anger. Why? Whether it is fulfillment or non-fulfillment, both of them lead to anger. If my desire is fulfilled, I want more of it, which creates a problem. If my desire is not fulfilled, I am dissatisfied. So in either case, I land up with anger. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. When I am angry, all my senses stop functioning. I am in a totally deluded state. Sammoha. Sammohat smriti vibhrama. Once I am deluded, all my experiences, all my knowledge, nothing will come to my aid. They can't help me. So that is what is called as loss of memory. Smriti vibhrama. Smriti bhramshat buddhinasha. From loss of memory, we will not be able to discriminate between what is right, what is wrong, what is eternal, what is ephemeral, what is permanent, what is impermanent. We can't make any discrimination between these things. So once that faculty is also lost, buddhi, then you are totally lost. Buddhi nashat pranashyat. See the beautiful sequence. So it is more as to the nature of the mind and nature of the body which has to be understood than merely about pleasure. Obviously, when you eat something good, it tastes good and you enjoy it and it is meant for enjoyment. But the mind doesn't stop there. The mind operates in 10 different ways, holding on to this pleasure. That becomes the problem. Is service to humanity a good start of moving from self-centered to centered self? I'm not very sure, because it is not a case of rendering service, which may temporarily help you to forget yourself or give less importance to yourself. This is only a very preliminary way of things. What is much more important is to understand this limitation, understand the nature of functioning of this mind, nature of functioning of this body. How does it function? What are its attributes? What are its limitations? See, when you have some new instrument, it comes with a big manual, isn't it? You buy a phone, any phone for that matter, or any computer, any laptop. It comes with a huge manual to tell you what to do, what not to do, how to use it, how not to use it. How many people actually read this manual? Nobody. But because it is legally mandatory, these instruments come with that manual. And it is a useful manual. You buy a car, they give a big manual. You buy anything, any instrument. But when we have this instrument, we never try to read the manual of this instrument. The body comes with a certain manual. The mind comes with a certain manual. But nobody teaches us that. Nobody gives that manual. Nobody actually asks us to study that manual. It is Adhyatma Vidya. It is this path of spirituality which says you have to read this manual which is called as the self. The manual of the self, which includes the body, which includes the emotions, which includes the feelings, which includes the thoughts, which includes analysis, everything, memory, all are included in this process. You have to understand that manual. This whole study is that study of that manual. And merely studying the manual is not important, is not sufficient also. You have to follow the manual and the guidelines for maintaining the body, for maintaining the mind in its proper condition, and use it when it is required. As Jiddu Krishnamurti usually says, the mind, if we are able to actually understand it and bring it to a certain level, it should operate like a electric switch. You use it when you require it. You put it on, and it's useful. Where it is not useful, you have to switch it off. The psychological memory is what creates all the problems for the human being. So it is more a question of not service can be a preliminary aspect of it. It can do wonders, but still it is within the realm of the known. It is within the field of the known, and sometimes there is that great danger of the self unconsciously becoming acquiring importance, thinking that I do a lot of service, I have a trust, I have an NGO, and I provide food for so many people, I provide this for so many people, I have started so many schools. So by doing service, there is this possibility of strengthening this I and making it more and more self-important. So therefore, the idea is selfless service. Selfless service in the sense the self should have absolutely no importance in the process. But again, I would like to remind what Ramana Maharshi used to say. The greatest service to humanity one can do is to become a self-realized person. Because the center which I am talking about, in the centered self, that center, you cannot err from that center. You cannot make a mistake from that center. Every action from that centered self will be the right action. Okay? Yes, sir. Please elaborate. Okay, that is over. Dr. Sanaji expressed some of his personal experience shifting from request another class to understand. Yeah, this only is an introduction. I wanted to. That's a very elaborate subject by itself. I just at the end I mentioned these 4 terms called Samgyanam, Ajnanam, Vijnanam, and Prajnanam, and the Mahavakya Prajnanam Brahma. A 2-day program can be conducted. Earlier we used to have this 2-day programs at the School of Ancient Wisdom and other forums. So, see, it needs actually a 2-day program to elaborate upon these 4 terms. I have just given a brief introduction to it, and for the sake of remembrance, I have given you that those 4 sets of E's, what I have called as elemental, existential, exclusive and exploitative, experiential and expressive, and finally expansive and ecstatic. So that's these terms I have coined so that we can remember them and do it. But it is better if you can remember the original Sanskrit terms and then do some contemplation to get a deeper insight into things. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I think that's the last question. Anything else?
Thank you so much. And as usual, a lot to think about. So, yes.
No, I think I mentioned right in the beginning
Yeah.
that we have to progressively become serious.
Right.
That's my purpose also, because you can't go on doing preliminary things and remaining at that. One has to, progressively it is going to become serious. One has to get into it seriously. That's why if one is not serious, and if it is like just listening to some discourse meant for just touching the superficial things, that's not going to really serve the purpose. And Ritambhara is meant to take people to a much deeper level, so that there is a self-transformation. The self has to move from being self-centered to centered self.
Yeah, totally right. Thank you so much, Krishnapani ji. We look forward to actually talking about this subject some more in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
So for everybody that's here, we have 3 great programs for you next week. On Sunday, 5th July, we have a yoga program by Umesh Dagatji starting at 7 a.m. It's based on boosting your immunity. On 7th July, Tuesday at 7 p.m., we have Kriti Achia, who will talk and dance us through a subject, a beautiful subject called Dance, a Way of Life. So that's on Tuesday, 7th July. And then on 10th July, we have Acharya Raghu Ganpati ji, who will be talking to us. Details of all of these programs I will be posting on our usual WhatsApp groups or on emails as wherever you've given it to us. If any of you want to add your phone numbers or emails, please do so on the chat function now. Thank you so much for being here. Krishnapani ji, thank you so much for the talk today. And from all of us at Ritambhara, thank you. We look forward to your presence again this Sunday and Tuesday and thereafter on Friday. Thank you so much. With that, we conclude today's session.